I'm going to become a necromancer.
Necromancer.
I just like the word. It's a great word.
It's so good.
So
Necromancer.
fancy. It sounds...
It just really is. But it always means dead. Are we settled on that?
It has to be. Yeah, dead. Necro, dead.
It's the podcast that Sly Serpent warned you about.
Welcome to Biting All the Apples, where two gals discuss one radical book.
The 1895 bestseller, The Woman's Bible by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I'm Sarah Kay.
I'm Joanna V.
And I'm supposed to read this next part. But I'm just gonna ad-lib.
Ad-lib it. You're not gonna ad-lib.
I'm not.
Come on. Who are you kidding?
Who are you kidding? Some genius wrote this, so I gotta read it. Today we are Today we are wrapping up the Pentateuch with the fifth and final book in the get it? 5 Pentateuch, Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
It's another book full of rules, regulations, but even a bit of pyrotechnics.
I love it.
Before we get started, we'll lay down our rules with some disclaimers.
I love disclaimers. Biting All the Apples covers the analysis of religious texts. Some listeners that are religious, out of the need for the illusion of certainty, may find the content offensive. Biting All the Apples also discusses historic texts and feminist movements. We recognize that individuals, groups, and alternative movements have been left out of history. We will note that whenever possible. We are also open to additional information provided to us in the spirit of expanding knowledge.
I really want someone to expand our knowledge.
I know. Come on,
but in
people.
a kind way. We're like, come on, people. What are you?
Expand.
Busy nowadays?
I don't know. I've been listening to my podcast, and I'm like, ooh, someone needs to answer that.
Yeah, we have a few questions.
I haven't looked it up yet. Who has time?
You know what I kind of didn't look up is the fact that I didn't realize that we weren't done with the Old Testament entirely.
I know.
But see how much you learn as you do this?
So I don't think Catechism does anything with the Old Testament. They just like touch it. I mean, you hear about it, but I'm like, ooh, it's long.
The thing about the Catholic Church is you can pull from wherever, right?
Yeah.
Are the Methodists like that too? I'm like, are the Methodists?
The Methodists.
I'm like, can't even
the
think
Lutherans.
What are they doing?
The Presbyterians.
Does everybody pull from the old?
I'm sure. Well, it's all one. It's
the old and the new?
The complete set, Old Testament, New Testament.
From the Pentateuch from the Ruta to the Tuta?
Bega.
Okay.
Rutabaga. The Rutabaga. Yeah. So everybody has the Old Testament. Of course. It's like the OG.
But yeah, so last week I lied to you where I said we're finishing up the Old Testament.
Well, we were thinking it was done.
The thing is, as we're progressing, we are finishing. It's not like we're going backwards.
Yeah. We're finishing the Pentateuch.
We're finishing the Pentateuch.
And then we have some Old Testament people to do.
That's right.
But today...
You didn't sound very excited about it. You're like, we're going to get back to them.
I know. Well, it's just, God's very wrathful in this one. It's wrathful.
I found
it's a little
God,
unnerving.
or I should say them, I almost said he. I found God a little bossy through this Pentateuch experience.
Very bossy.
Pretty bossy.
Also violent.
Yeah. Kind of seemed a little bit unnecessary.
Right?
But
stoning, killing babies, and just saying, do it. Kind of weird.
Kind of weird. Nobody checked this. Maybe it was good back in the day. Made sense.
Maybe you just had to kill whole civilizations to take over their city. Maybe that's a good thing. It's continued.
We'll never know. Nobody reported back on that. So
and it just keeps continuing. So I'm assuming it's probably not a bad gig.
What, being God?
No, just wiping out people.
This is
I'm saying
we're affected by our conversation.
I was reading it and I was like, oh, that's why they think they can do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's in the Bible.
But some of this stuff is an allegory, which we will talk about.
Is it even? Okay.
I don't know, but we are here just to see what the Victorian ladies. So, I mean.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if we'll ever find they told the truth. I'll tell you this. So, Joanne, I don't know what you thought. Like when I saw a book of Deuteronomy, I remember some of the readings from back when we were doing our church thing as youths.
Well, definitely Moses, big time.
I remember that guy.
I loved him.
But I saw this and I was like, oh, another Old Testament situation. But I found myself really, really enjoying Elizabeth.
Lots of juicy stuff in
Juicy
here.
stuff. That's why I'm like, sorry that I'm taking so long for us just to like get into. What did you think though? Did you have the same?
I did, and I'm like relevant juicy stuff where I'm like, again.
I know. I'm like, did you write this last week?
Right? And like, we need to take this to Congress. It's going to change the world.
I do think if we want to change the world, that we probably shouldn't start with Congress.
Well, it's obviously this is true because that's what they were doing, and no one listened to them. 130 years have passed.
Yeah. If you want to change the world, you do a podcast.
We do a podcast, and then we get the people.
That's
Power
right.
to the people.
We'll be like, this is still going on.
They're not changing the whole thing. It's just little things here and there. They're like keep it that way, but just like a couple things that we need to clarify.
Like, here's a couple things.
I want to clarify some thoughts, and they might, change your idea about who wrote this. Maybe it was a king. Maybe it was a king that needed some stuff done.
What if it seriously was just like an intern? They're just like, take some of these notes.
Well, Ezra,
isn't
Ezra? I did write something somewhere about Ezra. I don't know where I wrote it.
While you're looking this stuff up, that's what I want to. So Deuteronomy, as they write in their thing, like Elizabeth talks about how it's like the Greek word for repeated texts and laws. So it is almost like doubling down on some of the laws that we just
because we had already got the laws from Moses, and now they just like repeat them.
Right. They're loving the laws.
Loving the laws.
But in summary, what I have in the internet summary, the Israelites are commanded to remember 4 things: God's faithfulness, God's holiness, God's blessing, and God's warning. The first 3 chapters recap the trip from Egypt to their current location, Moab. Chapter 4 is
Utah? No. I know. Every time I read that, I'm like, why are they in Utah?
I know.
It's not.
They're not, but they did name the city in Utah after.
Yeah.
That's also because it's thought to have the same
kind of landscape.
Geography. Yeah, landscape.
Makes sense.
I'm like, is landscape what you call it? It had the same lawn. Chapter
sand.
4.
There was a lot of
very
sand.
Sandy. So they say it's a call to obedience, to be faithful to the God who is faithful to them.
Yeah. And
I'm like, this is an abusive relationship. I'm flat out just going to.
I mean, also, Moses spent 40 years, taking care of the Israelites, right? And it's also when he dies. So he dies. He knows he's going to die, apparently. And he calls them all in and says, I got to reemphasize some things.
See, I'm glad that you summarized it. I was having a tough time.
Right?
Pretty simple. Moses knows he's going to die.
It's his farewell address to the children of Israel.
Thank you. That's much better than the weird summary that
But I like, no, because I think, so she wrote it, she said, it's full of wisdom with a touch of pathos, which is emotion. Because it had been a tough time, Miriam, you got leprosy. They kicked her out. Aaron also died. They all died. And then this is my question. It says it's supposed to be written by Ezra. And I was like,
oh, sorry.
That's who I think Ezra is, somebody to a king. I looked that up somewhere. I don't know where. I thought I wrote it down.
We're like, we'll get back to you on that.
But there's obviously the time it was written, there was a lot of kings and things already. And kings, they like power.
Do they?
It's starting to make sense to me that someone who wrote it was someone that was already in power, and they were like, ooh, can we add some things that might have got left out?
Yeah.
Right? So, did you get that?
Yes. That's making some sense.
That's how I felt when I was reading it.
And so again, with these chapters that really are laying out the laws, Elizabeth, and she does have a couple guest commentators. I didn't say
she
guest,
does, but she
basically she takes over this chapter pretty well.
Deuteronomy.
But yet again talks about how much like BS it is that all these laws are written for and by men.
And it's pretty like terrible.
It's pretty terrible. That's why I'm like, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Or where should we dive in?
Can I just start right away? Like in just her comments?
Yeah, let's just get going.
Because I was telling you about wars and stuff, and that's where I was like, oh, okay. Wars. It's part of the Bible. We're never getting rid of them. It makes sense to me now. Because I've always said, why are we still having war? Apparently, it's God's will. Making war on neighboring tribes, the Jewish military code permitted them to take the pure virgins and child women for booty to be given to the priests and soldiers, thus debauching the men of Israel and destroying all feelings of honor and chivalry for women. So the code was like, oh yeah, these women were taking over the city, but let's take these pure women and we'll just ruin them. And we can do whatever we want with them. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of frightening. And she said this utter contempt for all the decencies of life and the natural and personal rights of women are set forth in these pages in Deuteronomy. They should destroy in the minds of women at least in women. Men probably won't get it. It should destroy in the minds of women all authority to superhuman origin and stamp the Pentateuch as at least as emanating from the most obscene minds of a barbarous age.
Yeah, that I was like, oh,
snap.
I know. So on one hand, I'm admiring her sass. On the other, here's my question, and this is where I want somebody. So, and they refer a couple times, because at first I was like, she's so sassy. She's saying like barbarians and how do you say it?
Barbarious.
I'm like, is this, and she said the most obscene minds. And now that I know that this is the Pentateuch, which is for the Jewish religion, are we in danger? Is she being like creepy here?
What do you mean?
I say creepy. Like, is she talking about the time or the...
Well, I think when she says women, you should stop thinking of this as, like we have to live by this law, what it says, when you can tell, like, it seems like any woman that's thinking, because she says, they say a lot, all these women are like intelligent women.
Right.
They make a distinction.
Yeah.
Between different types of women.
Right.
Should be thinking, oh, like this comes from an obscene mind of someone that is trying to manipulate things, right? That's how I read it.
Okay. And then, because it's obscene. They're like, well, we can't help these women. We'll just go kill all the women and children or take these and then take this handful of them.
Yeah. And if you like them and they're good looking, just
take all the pure virgins and child women for booty. Yeah. To give to priests and soldiers because they earned it.
So basically, remember that God told him to go take over that city of Canaan, right? Mm-hmm. But there were people there. And they're like, you got to get rid of them. You kill them. Men, you got to kill them all. Unless you're a little interested in some of these. And then you can just give them to the priests and the soldiers. And
to the priest, okay?
That's what I'm talking about.
So exactly. So this stuff is in the Bible, which
written
is
there
why
as basically as law.
This should not be used. Like, I'm just flat out saying, I'm like, this should not be used as like literal reference, like it is.
Yeah, and they actually say that.
Yeah, you're like, she just said it with the emanating from the most obscene minds. So the next part that she reads that they clip out in Deuteronomy does include the 10 Commandments. She only mentions some of those.
You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not kill people. It's so funny. Thou shalt not kill, except for when you want to take over the city. Kill all those people. That doesn't make sense, right?
But it is. And so their main point, which they have made in other chapters, is that these are like laws written for guys. Like nowhere says the best commentary on these texts is that no revising committee of ecclesiastics has found it necessary to make any suggestions as to whom the commandments are addressed. Suppose we reverse the language and see how one-sided it would seem addressed only to women.
Yeah.
Suppose this was the statement. Here is the great lawgiver, and he says, thou art to keep all God's commandments, thou and thy daughters and thy daughters' daughters, and these are the commandments. Thou shalt honor thy mother and father, thou shalt not steal nor lie. Here we go. This is where it's actually
this is the best one. This is for the women.
Just skip that. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's husband, nor her field, nor her ox, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Yeah. And they said, how would that go? And of course, the men would be like, this doesn't seem fair.
Isn't that
That's what
and
she's saying.
to this day, we're still dealing with that. And anytime you could just flippy dippy, you'd be like, is this really kind of like gender biased? It's like, well, if you read it and replace it with her and it seems super fucking crazy,
then you should feel that.
yeah, then there's probably an issue.
Because they do spend a lot of time in this particular thing saying there should be no distinction between the sexes.
Right.
Stop it, stop it, stop it. It's mankind.
Right.
So if it's mankind, as you know, some of the old texts, because way later, did you read about the Julie Smith Bible?
Oh, yes. That's
Okay.
what oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when
which is gorgeous what she writes about it.
right, so she did go through the Greek language and the Latin language and did it painstakingly, and so much of it was so different, the wording and stuff. And she was a woman all by herself, didn't need any men, and a lot of it changed the meaning of a lot of it, right? To be more sensical.
And also to demonstrate more how, when she talks about the earlier chapters like Genesis, as Elizabeth had said before too, like how the male and female were only distinguished in Genesis to show that these are different parts of a human. And the reason that men appear in more stories in the Bible is because they represent the more external part of a human, where the female or
It's
Eve,
emotional.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it is so gorgeous. And who we are talking about is it Julia? Is it Elena Smith?
Yeah.
And she writes kind of the follow-up after Deuteronomy, wrapping up the Pentateuch. And this is all part in the Women's Bible.
I don't know if she writes it or she
Oh, I'm sorry.
they talk about her.
Y'all, she didn't write it.
She didn't write it because I think she's
Actually,
dead.
who wrote this
She's dead.
gorgeous thing was Ursula Newell
Yes.
Gestfeld. So, but Julia Smith was an American women's suffrage activist who was the first woman to translate the Bible, as you were just saying. Mm-hmm. And the Bible, all I could find in my research was that it's called the Julia Evelina Smith Parker Translation Bible, and I need to get my hands on it.
Right? I know. Because
Now that I love Bibles.
I know. I want all the Bibles because there's a bunch. And actually in this section they talk about very, very different. But actually I don't know how many there are because so there are actual people called bibliomaniacs.
Is that what's happening to us?
That might be what we are. Yeah. So it says these Bibles will be a rarity in the next century and will be much sought after by bibliomaniacs, you and I, to say nothing of scholars who will want it for its real value. Julia Smith had the plates of her Bible preserved, but where they are now is more than I know. It was published by American Publishing Company in Hartford in 1876. But she didn't even know where the plates were then.
No kidding.
And Julia died in 1886. And of course, our book is written in 1895.
We need to follow up on this. We'll let you know if we can get our hands on
I know.
that.
Back then, it was only $2.50. I bet
Sorry
it.
to interrupt, guys. I was highly intrigued about bibliomania.
Yeah.
Yes.
And apparently bibliomania doesn't have anything to do with the Bible.
It's just books.
It's books.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's an addiction to books.
Also very
sti-
fitting.
Still applies.
Okay.
I'm glad that you chimed in.
gosh.
We should keep that.
Corey chimed in, bibliomaniacs, not Bibles, just books.
Yeah.
Which then also, it kind of sits with like, this is a book. They do keep stating that. This is like a very nice literary
Yeah, like it's
book.
gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous book with some great lessons,
Smith,
but some discrepancies on how women are depicted.
and I wonder, obviously, I'm a crazy purple-haired feminist. I don't even have purple hair,
You
but
don't
I know
have,
that's what
but
they
I
say.
could see you with purple hair.
Wouldn't that be good? But I truly, even just seeing how Gestfeld wrote about it and how they reference Smith throughout, I'm like, it is so much more interesting to view the Bible in that way. To be like, look at this amazing allegory that doesn't involve like Sky Daddy
Yeah, what can
telling
we...
you to just give all the women to the priests and soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some wonderful lessons here.
Yeah.
Who thought it would be a good idea to make it like law?
The king dude.
The king.
The king
kings.
dude.
The kings.
And backing up to that, so this part when they're talking about the commandments, Stanton is writing, like, in our criminal today, the pronouns she, her, and hers are not found, yet we are tried in the courts and prison and hung as he, him, or his. Granted, it's not the same, but we definitely don't have laws that have, like, female pronouns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't really read a lot of
Well, I haven't read a lot of laws lately.
You know why? Because there's no laws anymore. And who knows by the time
Who knows by the time this comes out?
I'm like, laws are folly. I love the part. And they also bring up, did you notice that our boy Adam Clark is back in here? They're really ripping him apart.
Think he was like the only one that they rip him apart. They're like, oh, he did it all by himself.
Yeah.
He didn't need anybody. But
they actually refer to him as TFG. This fucking guy. No, I'm just they do not do
like,
that.
what? I did not. But
they're like, oh, Clark.
That's your brain. But now I'm gonna like, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah.
That's great. TFG. I'm gonna use that.
It
often.
really is so how much they like pick on him, but
I think he was the only one that really had he was the most recent guy that tried to revise.
Yeah.
He went through and tried to revise things. I don't know if he was the 1888 guy. Because that's the Bible they talk about, is the 1888 version that they're really
maybe they updated his.
Apart.
Because I know that remember when we looked up the Adam Clark one was in the 1820s or 1830s.
I looked him up and he was 18. Well, because
Ooh, we're going to have it. No,
we're going to fight.
But this law stuff matters. It's nuts that it mattered 130 years ago. You can only imagine it's been mattering for, thousands of years. And to this day, it's wild.
Yeah. I want to read this quote because I think it's fantastic. Elizabeth Cady Stanton speak. And it's directly to the women of that time. And she just wants to push it through.
Tell it.
Quote, as thoughtful, intelligent women, we question all of this. That means all of them that wrote this book. First, we see no evidence that a just and wise being wrote either canon or civil laws that have been gradually compiled by the ecclesiastics, priests, and lawgivers. Second, we cannot accept any code or creed that uniformly defrauds women of all of her natural rights. For the last half century, 50 years, and she was like legit talking about herself, for 50 years, she's like, oh my God, for 50 years. We have publicly and persistently appealed from these laws, which Clark, TFG, says all nations have copied, to the common sense of a more humane and progressive age. Today, women are asking to be delivered from all the curses and blessings alike of this God in the Old Testament and the ordinance he established. In this book, we just have the 10 Commandments repeated.
Mm-hmm.
Why fourth?
I had highlighted because I'm like, I feel like we should just run on the campaign of we cannot accept any code or creed that uniformly defrauds women of all her natural rights in light. That was a good slip.
Well, it is. Yeah. Because
natural rights in light. I added that on. You're welcome, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if she was here today seeing what was happening to women's rights and bodily autonomy, like we had won all this stuff, we have made great strides.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are with the same book being used by the Heritage Foundation that was not revised with these ladies' wisdom.
Right.
To pull us back, even further or just back to this time. I feel like that's where they would like us to go. Like I was telling you that local sheriff that we have in our town, I think he would be like, yeah, well, look at this law. It says that, we should just take these women and divvy them out to whoever we like.
Yeah.
See, the Bible says.
It's written right here.
You should stay at home and raise those babies.
Right.
Because
and
it's the way of the Lord. And they're saying, no, that's not the way of the Lord.
That's not the way. They're like,
that is zero what it said.
There's no evidence that a just and wise being wrote either
is
the canon or civil laws.
Zero evidence of that.
We're like zero. And you can't just be like, it's the word of God. You're like, the evidence.
Show me some evidence.
Show me some. And we do get to a part which may be skipping ahead, but I'm going to do it just anyways because I feel like it's really important for this because I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about. She says, and this idea still holds that faith in the crude speculations of unbalanced minds as to the nature of the great first cause and his commands as to the conduct of life should be the same in the beginning, now, and forever. And here's the zinger. All other institutions may change. Opinions on all other subjects may be modified and improved, but the old theologies are a finality that have reached the ultimatum of spiritual thought. We imagine our religion with its dogmas and absurdities must remain like the Rock of Ages forever.
The Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
Absurdities. Yeah.
Rock of Ages.
I actually underlined absurdities like 3. Look at that. I was like, absurdities.
You're like, check that. But the point is, everything else has evolved. And I think that because this is such a convenient law book to continue patriarchal power,
the patriarchs are like, oh, this will stay.
This will stay
We
forever.
are cementing it in the Rock of Ages.
And all they have to do is be like, well, God wrote it.
yeah.
And really, I mean, maybe she did.
Maybe she did.
Maybe God wrote it, but somebody really took some liberties with the translations.
Yeah. Before she writes what you just wrote, I had to look up this word because she said the sacred fabulist. Do you know what a fabulist is?
Guess what? Yes.
It's a liar.
I love that.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that more often.
I know,
You
fabulous.
sacred fabulist.
For a second, I got it confused with a fascinator,
Ooh.
which is a small kind of topper hat type thing. I was like, the sacred fascinator.
Ooh, what does that look
ladies.
like? Go. But
Yes.
She said the sacred fabulist has failed to give us any choice examples in which the Jewish faith executed just judgments for widows or fatherless girls. On the contrary, in all their dealings with women of all ranks, classes, and ages, they were merciless and unjust. And they're like, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And that little bit later, she says, a humane person reading these books for the first time without any glamour of divine inspiration would shudder at their cruelty and blush at their obscenity. Those who can make these foul facts illustrate beautiful symbols must have genius of a high order.
You got to read it
How
like
sassy is that?
snarky.
Yeah, do it. Read it with more snark.
Those who can make these foul facts illustrate beautiful symbols must have a genius of high order.
Oh, Elizabeth.
It's just like
mean,
Adam Clark.
do you think she's like mad or superior?
No,
or...
I think she's frustrated. I think because at this particular time, right, the suffragists are mad at her, right? Because remember, she stopped fighting for the voting right because of the Civil War. So they kind of got mad at her then. And then she wrote this book, and they said, this is a terrible idea because people love the Bible. And actually, we've even experienced that now.
Right.
Like when we tell people about the podcast, and like you just say, oh, it's about the Bible. And it's kind of like telling them, that it's, kind of ruining things. The Bible still is very sensitive.
It's so sensitive.
And so those ladies went after her, right? And then Susan B. Anthony, who is her bestie, had to balance it. And she actually chose the ladies over Elizabeth. And I'm sure, like, you think about it, their husbands were one thing, but these two were best friends, and they were like very, very close. And so that was fractured. So yeah, I think she's angry. She's like, I want change. This book is it. I'm sorry, Susan. And Susan knew it. Susan agreed.
But she just couldn't do it because just like you said, I even feel it today.
Susan wanted the little progress to get the right to vote.
Right.
Which she got. But Elizabeth was like, no, we want it all. We want them to realize that somebody in power is oppressing us for a reason. And we need to get rid of these parts because it's not even what God would want.
Well, and also tying that power to this omnipotent spiritual being that controls everything. I mean, that's a real trap.
It's a big trap.
It's a big trap. Because, like, who's going to... I mean, we see it back in American politics right now. People talking again about, like, evil and Satan and God's will and stuff. And I'm like, that is so dangerous because there's no checking that at all.
No, and people are looking for answers because it's not a really super happy time right now in 2025.
Right.
So people are looking to their faith and looking for these things, and there's some nefarious figures that are using this book of love again in a absurd way. It's absurd.
It's absurd. So you're right. I did think she was ticked. Do it. Yeah, go ahead.
I made notes because last week I said Levites were priests.
Right.
But so all priests are from the clan of Levi.
Okay.
Right. But Levites are just priest helpers.
Oh, good to know.
Right.
I'll put that in our show notes.
All the Levites are descendants of Aaron. Aaron is Moses' brother. So obviously Moses and Aaron were priests. So they are of this class. Remember I was talking about class system?
Right.
And all of these laws in this particular section talk about the priest and she says giving tithing to priests and stuff. Take heed, and thou never forsake the Levite as long as thou liveth upon earth. Like, who wrote that? Did God want that written? Right? So she says, then you can tell she's irritated, right? Because she's like, so here's her sass. People, if women have been faithful to any class of the human family, it's been to the Levite. The chief occupation of women's lives next to bearing children has been to sustain the priesthood and the churches. With continual begging, fairs, donation parties, they have helped plant religious temples on every hilltop and valley and in the streets of all of our cities so that the doleful church bell is forever ringing in our ears. The Levites have not been an unqualified blessing, ever fanning the flames of religious persecution. They have been the chief actors in subjugating mankind.
She was trying to warn us
like,
about Billy Graham
people,
and those people.
Yes!
It's
700
true.
Club.
And now the Office of Faith, the White House Office of Faith, and the lady selling...
The Heritage Foundation.
Who's the lady selling... She's selling miracles for $1,000 on Easter, directly related.
Oh, yeah. She's the chief religious person for the White House.
Yeah, we don't even know her official title. She's just the lady that'll save your soul.
She's nuts. She's nuts. I can't even know how you look at her and go, oh, yeah, that's a lady that's close to God.
Right.
But
130 years ago, Elizabeth was like, these.
Are you kidding me? You're giving your money. You're spending your whole Saturdays doing this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
This is the rage episode.
You asked if she's angry.
Know.
And I'm like, hell yes, she's angry. She's over it.
And did you like this part? So in the Deuteronomy, I mean, we are skipping around, but essentially the parts that they put in, they're talking about different offerings and serving gods and giving them. But here she talks about having to sacrifice stuff for God. So the people have always been deluded with the idea that what they gave to the church and the priesthood was given unto the Lord.
Yeah.
As if the maker of the universe needed anything at our hands. How incongruous the idea of an infinite being who made all the planets and the inhabitants thereof, commanding his creatures to kill and burn animals for offerings to him.
Like he needed food.
Also, he's like, made it, and he's like, I need you to burn. It makes no sense.
Right here. This is right. It is truly pitiful to see the deceptions that have been played upon the people in all ages and countries by the priests in the name of religion.
They are omnipresent, ever playing on human credulity. Credulity.
Which means too ready to believe something is real, which is where we are.
This is so at
this
birth.
This is why we are where we are.
I know. At birth and death, in affliction, and at the marriage feast, in the saddest and happiest moments of our lives, they are near to administer consolation in our sorrows and to add blessings to our joys. No other class of teachers have such prestige and power, especially over women.
Yeah.
This was written 130 years ago, not this morning, but you couldn't tell me
this is
different.
my new favorite term here, human credulity, CREDULITY.
That's my new favorite term that
Too
I'm just
ready.
going to write and not say out loud.
Too ready to believe something is real. I know, it's credulity. Credulity.
I'm like, credulity.
So I do want to say
Do it.
that they did it quite craftfully because people were terrified. Because these laws in Deuteronomy, obviously, like I said, I read somewhere that it was like a king's helper that helped do some of the Deuteronomy, because they were like, Moses is dead, he can't be writing anymore. So there was there's some king involved back in the day. But one of them is like, so it's all, the laws, thou shalt not, thou shalt bring forth a man or woman unto thy gates, and shalt stone them with stones until they die, basically. And this was all about if you wanted to change religions back then. Isn't that kind of funny? So there's a whole lot of thing about not wanting to change religion, and if you did, you could stone them to death. And Elizabeth says, well, this is certainly a very effective way of strengthening religious faith. Most people would assent to any religious dogma, however absurd, rather than be stoned to death. I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd pretty much do anything
Yeah.
other than get stoned to death.
Right.
Like,
You'd be like, sure.
you'll do this, you'll live, or stoned to death.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can subscribe to that dogma.
So I just imagine her
Another
being
good
like,
movie, by the way.
Oh my gosh, that's a great. We should put out a movie list.
Movie list.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And this is a little bit further in some of the chapters she writes. When the human mind is led to believe things outside the realm of known law, it is prepared to accept all manner of absurdities.
And yet the same people that ridicule spiritualism, theosophy, and psychology believe in the 10 plagues of Egypt and the passage of children of Israel through the Red Sea.
That's right. And this is the same. And backing up right before, did you underline all this stuff too? It's it's, you know what? It's delicious.
It's delicious.
It is delicious. This is so we're talking about Moses. They have a part in Deuteronomy, and this is the XV11. So that is 18.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can add.
And it picks on so not talking to enchanters or witches or charmers and stuff.
Oh,
Elizabeth comes in and she's like, one would think that Moses, with his rod, taking the children of Israel through the Red Sea, bringing water out of a rock and manna from heaven.
Bread from heaven. Is it manna bread?
That is now.
We get
going up into a mountain, and they're surrounding themselves with a cloud of smoke, sending out all manner of pyrotechnics, thunder and lightning, and deluding the people into the idea that there he met and talked with Jehovah, should have been more merciful in his judgments of all witches, necromancers, and soothsayers.
Yeah. But no, why? No, of course he wouldn't, because he probably was one
Right.
and was like, hey, wait a minute.
He just caught on more.
Right?
He had the king on his side.
Also,
Yeah.
necromancer,
Love it.
looked it up,
Okay, tell me.
communicates with the dead.
Yeah. I'm only familiar with necro dancers.
Right. Don't be a necrodancer.
That's right.
Yeah, necromancer communicates with the dead. But yeah, of course.
So what's somebody that's communicating with an imaginary sky person?
Faithful.
Faithful. There you go. Back to the Bible. Yeah, we're actually, this is in the last parts where they're this.
But yeah, so it makes sense that they want to be against wizards and spirits because
Competition.
Yeah, and think about it. I could go a whole thing on magicians because there's some ones that really freak me out. I mean, they're doing some crazy stuff. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. But think about it. I think in magicians, work on that plane. If you believe in connective consciousness, so they're relying on these certain parts of our brain to make up part of the illusion too. So it's actually this awesome collaborative art that I think is so cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Which is probably what was happening. I mean,
Yeah.
the more that I read, I'm like, yeah, you'd want to be against that if you had it and you're like, yeah, but I'm going to use it differently.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a book with laws on it. And a lot of the laws were good, but then they got corrupted.
Then they get corrupted. And this one really caught fire because it was
Fire.
But unlike your wizards, your witches, your sorceresses, and all of that, those aren't really people that are interested in like mass power, not on the scale that Christianity has delivered.
Right? All over the world.
All over the world.
All
so
over the
essentially, my new interpretation is that these stories are of the greatest power coup of all time.
Yeah. You are right.
Let that sink in.
That just like was,
it's true.
it's marinating.
Right. Because they're like, why is a religion like or belief system useless just because it's like concentrated? Instead, they need one that's like, this is for all mankind.
And we have to prophesize. You
Yeah.
have to. It's actually when you get, because remember I told you I've been confirmed twice.
Double confirmed. So she's qualified.
She's qualified. When you are confirmed, you are, because I argued both times. Of course, in 1991, I don't think I remember arguing. I was more just being a pain in the ass.
Right.
But when I went as an adult, I was like, yeah, but that's the part I don't like that. I don't want to push it on people. I don't think that's right. Right? I don't feel good about that.
I don't think, it's my understanding that that's not necessarily written in the Bible, is it? That you have to go recruit people? Or is that also a little king insert?
Basically, yeah, because like listen to this whole thing was
I mean, I know a lot of people do it.
They were like, you can go take these women from these other towns, but they need to come to your religion, right? And if they don't, you can stone them to death.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little different, though, than getting confirmed and being like, you need to tell your neighbor about Jesus.
Right. Well, that's nicer. But that back in the day, that's why they were like,
but the
New Testament, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad.
You invite them in and you give them some bread and fish and wine. There's wine.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she continues, and I'm telling you, all of her response, again, this is another time I'm just tempted. I'm like, just to read all of her stuff, underline the whole thing. But we won't.
I know.
She brings up Bishop Colenso again, the one, and it truly is so fascinating that this was the dude, technically, probably a colonizer. I'm like laughing again. I'm like, ha ha.
Uncomfortable laughter.
But yeah,
a colonizer.
Yeah, but Elizabeth talks more about this because I mentioned it in our last episode, just from what I found out. But I didn't know she was going to like write all about this. Let me see if I got so. I shall never forget, says the bishop, the revulsion of feeling with which a very intelligent Christian native, with whose help I was translating these last words into the Zulu tongue, first heard them as words said to be uttered by the same great gracious being whom I was teaching him to trust in and adore. So the bishop is talking about the translator, like hearing some of this stuff, about stoning and giving women away.
What he told him, his whole soul revolted against the notion. His whole soul. That's a serious reaction.
Yeah, his whole soul revolted against the notion that the great and blessed God, the merciful Father of all mankind, would speak of a servant or maid as mere money and allow a horrible crime to go unpunished because the victim of the brutal usage had survived a few hours. I mean...
Yeah.
And again, this was probably a couple hundred years ago.
It's funny because, so think about Bishop Colenso, because he came out and he wrote about it. But like he was going there, like firmly believing in that, what was that word two, credulity.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then it wasn't until he was like translating to someone else and he's like, oh, well, shoot.
And seeing it through
someone else's eyes.
I mean.
Because they wouldn't have to I never questioned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't. I was like, this is obviously, like, I don't know how'd they write it. I don't know how.
Right.
But this is what I was.
Well, because everybody tells you, like, you actually, especially like when I think about Catholicism, is like even questioning or not having faith is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So it's all baked in.
It's baked.
And so this guy, I do find that story of the bishop, is it Consolo? Is that, yeah, Colenso. Bishop Colenso. How fascinating. And if you look up about when he published the book, in which I gave the title last time, I'll put it in the show notes. I forgot what it was, but it's pretty good. It's like Joseph. I'm like, it's real good. It's a real hit. Joseph and the Pentateuch. There's a band.
That would be a great band.
But it was met with insane controversy, even though he wrote it from direct experience of trying to bring this information to people.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I tried to bring it, and They brought up some valid thoughts.
Yeah, they brought up some valid thoughts. They
had some visceral experiences when I told them we were stoning people to death.
Right. And then talking about, I mean, servants or maids as money. So here we have this idea of, essentially like honestly, slavery, so if you people read, as property.
So right before she talks about Colencio, they say, I highlighted some of the actual laws that are being set forth. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and they've taken people hostage. I'm going to say it and speak because reading it like the Bible,
I know
it hurts my brain. I'm going to translate it for you. You go to war. God sent you there, and thou seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, and that thou would want her to have the wife. Then thou shalt just bring her home to thine house, shave her head, and cut her nails.
Sorry.
And then she's the wife. But then, let's say he has no delight in her afterwards. Then he lets her go, but can't make merchandise of her because he has humbled her. Does that mean rape? That's he humbled her.
I need to know.
He humbled her. That's
I'll
a
tell
nice
you
way
what,
of saying
even if it's not
he
exactly
defiled
that,
her. He humbled her.
That doesn't sound pretty.
And nothing about a woman having anything. So these are the things that he was reading to the Zulu people, and they're like, oh, this ew. Like, my soul is revolting at the notion of all of this.
Yeah.
And that's, I think he was like, oh, God, I never thought about it because I just had faith.
It's insane. But there's a little part of me that I'm like, good for that dude. Even if he was like, colonizing.
It was of the time.
What's it called? Missionary.
I mean, there's so many things that were happening at this time that were horrific.
Yeah. And at least like just to see that glimmer of somebody taking that experience and being like, hey, maybe I should look into this. Maybe we shouldn't just like, humiliate and humble women, shave their heads and cut their nails.
So she actually talks about the word humbled, but she doesn't explain it like I do. She says, in that word humbled is included the whole of our false morality in regard to the equal relations of the sexes. Why, in this responsible act of creation on which depends on life and immortality, woman is said to be humbled when she's the prime factor in the relation? It's a question difficult to answer, except in her general degradation, carried off without her consent as spoils of war, subject to the fancy of any man to be taken or cast off at his pleasure, no matter what is done with her. Doesn't matter. You just have, women have like...
No say. They don't even have names.
You are taken and you can be like, and divorce was super easy. You just write them off. But then the women have this...
And that's what
mark of I've been humbled by this man that stole me.
And so, and that Deuteronomy does talk about divorce, as you had mentioned, some of those things. And Elizabeth is like, all the privileges accorded man alone are based on the principle that women have no causes for divorce. I mean, again, something we're rolling back to.
Yeah, and there was obviously really shitty men back then as well. There's always been shitty men. If they had equal rights in law and sentiment, a large number of cruel, whiskey-drinking, and profane husbands would be sued for divorce before the wives endured 1 year of such gross companionship.
Well, back then, okay, but this is leading up. So this is written in the late 1800s, where there was a trend for temperance. So this is what is starting to build that movement. So she's probably addressing that.
Tell me
when
about
she's talking
temperance.
about. Well, prohibition.
Oh.
Getting rid of the booze. So that was starting to lead up because it was women, and this is also why I've heard this is very sloppy history, but also why women did get the vote, because it was kind of tied into this prohibition situation.
Well, it ties in, just like taking the wives and stuff. It says Moses, this helped lead to people rejoicing in exterminating the Aborigines in America, which I'm assuming is Native Americans.
Right. Oh my.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, the Bible says.
The Bible says just get rid of them, shave their head. It's fine.
Yeah.
The last thing that I wanted to.
There is some great stuff in here.
There's some I know.
You're going to want to get this book.
Get
read
this book
poem.
And we can even do a bonus thing where we go through. But I definitely need you listeners and you, Joannie, which you probably already have this highlighted. But they're talking about how men and women staying home and having children. So if they propose to have children, the responsible duties of parents should be equally shared as far as possible. In a busy commercial life, fathers have but little time to guard their children against the temptations of life or to prepare them for its struggles. And the mother, educated to believe that she has but no rights or duties in public affairs, can give no lessons on public morality from her standpoint. Think about that, people that are like, we just need to get back to stay-at-home moms. But here's the real kicker. Hence, the home is in a condition of half orphanage for the want of fathers, and the state suffers the need of wise mothers.
Wise mothers.
Wise mothers. So
It's all about...
Oh,
right. Flattering male egoism.
Ooh, did she put that in there?
Yeah, she says, this is flattering to male egoism and is readily accepted. All of this stuff that basically disenfranchises women.
Yeah, it's flattering. It's not only, though, is this stuff flattering, it gives them so much power.
Flattering power.
Flattering power. So I don't know if I expressed my fangirlness enough about this. I'm sure, you probably had more stuff underlined ready to rock and roll.
I got so much left, but I know we're running out of time.
I know, we'll just do a little bonus thing. Maybe we'll put it on our talk.
Ooh, the TikTok.
That's right. Or actually probably the
YouTube, the Blue Sky.
Yeah. We're also now on Skylight. So if you want even more of this.
More of us.
You want more of us reading the book to you.
Yeah.
And then going, oh my God. Yeah,
we're here for you.
We're here for you.
We're here for it all.
We're totally here for you.
Yeah, because there's so much that we can't get it all. You're either going to have to read the book or you're going to have to call us.
But I do think we covered the main highlights. And to recap, Elizabeth said, what a bunch of bullshit.
What a bunch of BS.
I'm like, that's it. But so next week, we're getting into the second part of the Women's Bible. It was actually, it was published in two parts. First was the Pentateuch, and then, is it Pentateuch? I'm going to get over it.
Pentateuch.
Okay. Pentateuch.
I don't know. I listened on YouTube, and it says they played like 5 people saying it different ways.
And
I was like, oh, just do what you want.
Do what you want. Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Do what you want, but just don't stone me.
What a way to die. How many stones would you have to have? Or what kind of shot? It's a whole thing.
And what was were people living in like rock quarries? Like why would there?
Or did you have a special like death rock?
And as
like sharp rocks, like you buy skipping rocks?
I know.
Ooh, this would be a good stoning rock.
I know.
I'm going to keep that in my pocket.
I'm always like, yeah, good skipping rock. And as a kid, when I heard these things about stoning people, because at that time we just got like our gravel driveway or whatever. Oh. And so I just pictured, I'm like, those are like, how would that work?
Yeah.
It's like, you must have to have a slingshot because those stones were only like,
I
like
still
an inch
can't get
maybe.
it.
So if you have any information on stoning you're not a creep, please reach out.
I did just recently learn that otters have a favorite rock and they keep it with them sometimes their whole life.
Don't ever tell me a cute thing about otters. I can't
otters,
handle it.
But
they're so cute.
Some of them have them their whole life. They're like, this is a good shell cracker.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they'll keep it their whole life.
See?
Favorite rock. They're like, this is a good
That's the meaning of life.
Good rock.
An otter and his rock. So next week, it includes the rest of the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we'll keep the old times rolling with Joshua and maybe the book of Judges. We'll see how much our 19th century gals have to say and then record accordingly.
And we, of course, would love to hear what you say. We're not kidding. Do you have a tip, a question, a thought, a rant? We love rants. Obviously, you've heard ours.
Yeah.
Give us some rants. Check out our show notes for how to reach out. You can record us a message. You can connect with us. We're real people. If you need a workout, we recommend liking, following, subscribing, and sharing this podcast. We're on all the platforms. It really helps us keep this project going. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you, and see you next week.
Can't wait. Expand your knowledge. Love you. Peace out.